In 2018, my friend Jeff and I won the grand prize of $15,000 at the Money2020 Hackathon held in Las Vegas. And as winners, we had the privilege of meeting Sir Richard Branson backstage right after his keynote interview. In this video, I'm going to share with you the secrets of how we won so you too can win your next hackathon as well. Meeting Richard Branson was especially significant to me. I read his book, Losing My Virginity, when I was in college, and this book really changed my life. It turned me into who I am today. It taught me that in order to be a successful entrepreneur, you don't have to be a boring suit. You can have all the fun in the world while experiencing everything this world has to offer, while making a huge fortune. This hackathon was very enticing because it had a total cash prize of $100,000, and the main event had 500 speakers that included many business moguls and celebrities, including Shaquille O'Neal, Akon, and Richard Branson. Because of this, over 1,000 hackers attended, and the competition was intense. But we had an ace up our sleeves. We had a system to help us win hackathons that took us many years and many hackathons to figure out. And today, I'm going to share with you my 9 secret steps of winning hackathons. And if you follow them, I guarantee that the chances of you winning a hackathon will be a lot higher. And maybe you'll walk home with a grand prize as well. If you're watching this video, you're probably a hacker, developer, or computer science student who is trying to get an edge on your next hackathon. So I'm not going to make this a technical video about what tech stack you should use or how to program. Instead, I'm going to focus on what is even more important, the strategy. But if you're not a developer or you've never been to a hackathon before, I'll give you a quick rundown of what a hackathon is and how they work. A hackathon is a competition that is held by one or a group of sponsors, typically corporations. The hackathon will have a theme like education, energy, or medicine. And in the case of Money2020, it is money and payments. Attendees, typically developers, come together in teams to work on creative new projects. It is not hacking in the traditional sense of breaking into banks or into computer systems. Instead, it's about using your creativity to build something new and exciting with your team and have fun in the process. At the end of the competition, every team will have 1 to 3 minutes to go on stage and present their big idea. A team of judges, typically from the sponsors, will decide on which projects were the best and decide on the winners. There are usually main prizes, typically 3, and also side prizes from the sponsors. The sponsors will pick side prizes on teams that use their APIs and technologies the best. With that out of the way, here are my 9 secret tips in order to win. The first 3 are things to do before the hackathon even begins. Number 1, you gotta have the right mindset. You have to differentiate the difference between having the goal to win versus designing the right systems to win. This is one of the concepts that was introduced by James Clear in the book Atomic Habits. Having a goal to win will not lead to actually winning. To give an example, every single soccer coach would like to win the championships, but only the ones with the best systems will win in the end. So in the case of a hackathon, what you should focus instead of just on winning should be a system to come up with great ideas, 2, a system to turn ideas into products, and 3, a system to pitch your products so that the judges will love it and vote for you so that you can finally win in the end. And also, in terms of mindset, winning is great, but that shouldn't be your sole goal. You should go there with a relaxed mind and focus on having fun and make friends and learn new things. It might be counterintuitive, but if you are more relaxed and more happy, you will actually be more creative. And this creativity will ultimately help you in a hackathon. For me, during this hackathon that I won, I thought I was just there for a weekend. I was going to enjoy Vegas, hang out with a bunch of my developer friends, eat some good food, go clubbing, and maybe build a few apps on the side at this hackathon. And because I was so relaxed and happy, I was able to come up with a very creative idea and win in the end. Tip number 2 is to build the right team before the hackathon begins. Usually hackathons will allow you to have up to 4 to 6 members on your team. And when you're building your team, the most important thing for you to do is to ensure that the skill sets of the individual team members complement each other. It's a lot like building a basketball team. You can't have a team of just point guards or a team of just centers. I advise that you should have at least 3 positions. Number 1 should be the presenter and the product manager. What this person does is comes up with the idea, represents the user, their pain points and their needs, and draws up the mock-up of the product and present it to the rest of the members. The second person in the team is the front-end engineer and designer. This person designs all the visual aspects of the app and is in control of everything the user sees and interacts with. This includes everything from icons, colors, flow, etc., etc. And the last person is the back-end engineer who deals with the APIs provided by the sponsors, the databases, the logic of the app, etc. It's best that your entire team have worked together before. They can be your coworkers, classmates, or team members who've done hackathons in the past. In our case, Jeff and I were co-founders of a tech startup before, and we built many different products together, from web apps, mobile apps, and even hardware hacks. So we already had a very good system of working together, and we knew each other's quirks and strengths and weaknesses very, very well. So the two of us were able to take on all three roles. So if you want to win, I advise against showing up alone and just joining a random team. The chances of you finding a team with all complementary skills is probably rare. Once you have a team, you have to make sure that whatever app you're trying to build during the hackathon, you have already done it in the past. What you don't want to do is this. Okay guys, let's do this. We're going to build a iOS app together, alright? And we're going to win this thing. How to use Swift and build apps for beginners. No. I'm not asking you to come in with pre-written code or with the app already built, because that would be cheating. But you should be familiar with the language and how the tools work. Treat this just like any other sports. Your training, your teamwork, and your practice is probably just as important, if not more important, than the match itself. Okay, the third thing you have to do before the hackathon actually starts. You have to do your homework and know the sponsors. The sponsors are there because they want exposure. They want more people to use their latest technologies. Usually these are APIs that you can use in your hackathon projects. So you have to know, who are these companies? What problems are they trying to solve? Who are the customers, and what are the pain points of the customers? Ideally, your project should make these companies shine. So avoid doing the opposite. For example, if Facebook and Twitter are the sponsors, then don't build an app like this. We're going to help everyone in this world stop using social media so that these evil social media empires will stop spying on us. If you build that, 100% you're not going to win. Now, the next 3 tips are for during the hackathon itself. Tip number 4 is the big idea and where to find them. Most teams make something random. They just make the first thing that comes to their head and they'll create it together, they'll throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. Or they'll make a derivative of an idea that already exists. So what you need to do instead is to perk up your ears and listen to the sponsors and the judges. Usually there is a keynote speech before the hackathon even begins. The judges will actually tell you what kind of problems they actually see in the world right now that really needs to be solved. And this is where your inspiration should come from. During the hackathon that I went to, the head judge made a keynote speech and he mentioned 2 things in the world of finance that desperately need a solution. One thing he mentioned was that there's a huge number, like 2 billion people in this world who are still unbanked. These are people who do not have a bank card, they don't have any credit, and they're unable to borrow any money from the bank. And number 2, there's a huge migrant population here in the US who are sending remittance to their home countries. And even though they're the worst paid people in this country, they're actually paying the highest fees just to send money to their families. And both of these 2 issues desperately need a solution. So when I heard these, I knew right away, these are the 2 problems my project should focus on. So for your hackathon, go to the keynote speech, listen to the judge, and find out what are the most important issues that he or she hopes to see solved. Tip number 5 is to hedge your bets when it comes to prizes. Each sponsor that comes to the hackathon will have their own side prize. These prizes are given to teams who make products that best utilize their latest technologies, usually APIs. So whoever makes these sponsors shine the brightest will usually win the side prizes from these sponsors. And now tip number 6 is very simple, is to build the actual app when you come up with a big idea. Because you and your team have already worked together, you guys know what you're doing, now is just time to hunker down and execute. Your app should just be good enough, just bare bones enough, so that you can go on stage and present. The presentation is everything. Before we dive into the last 3 tips, you probably noticed my channel is brand new, and this is actually my very first YouTube video. So if this video provides you any value or any entertainment at all, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and I promise you that in the future, I'll be making more entertaining and informative videos. Now finally, the last 3 tips for the final presentation. Tip number 7 is to make your pitch personal and emotional. Try to tell a story. A story has these following elements. Number 1, a story always has a main character. This character can be you or a fictitious person. The main character always encounters a problem that they cannot overcome. And this is the main pain point your app should be trying to solve. Then in the story, the main character struggles until finally they find a way to overcome their problem. And in the case of this app is by finding your product and using it. And tip number 8, I think, is the most important secret, is that you need to name drop. You have to mention the company that made the technology that you're using in your app. This is something that I learned from Dale Carnegie in the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. He says in the book, the sweetest sound in the world to someone is the sound of their name. The same is true for companies. So imagine if you're the judge, you're sitting there and you're listening to tens if not hundreds of pitches that day. If someone on stage mentions your company and mentions the technology that you created during your last year of work, your ears are going to perk up and you're going to stand out in the crowd of hundreds of different teams. And chances are, in the end, the judge will remember you over everyone else, especially if your app is already very good. And number 9, the last tip, is that you gotta practice, and more practice. Your app can be wonky and unpolished, but your pitch has to be perfect. Make sure that you finish exactly under the time limit. What you can do is record yourself and make sure you can tell the entire story, the entire journey within the time limit of the competition. And remember, the time that you have on stage for your final pitch is the only window that you really have to communicate with all the judges. You only have that 1 minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes to tell your whole story, so make sure you're spending at least half of your energy polishing and perfecting your final pitch. And now, if you followed all of these 9 steps, your chances of winning should be dramatically increased. And just to illustrate, I'll give you a rough version of the pitch that I did in 2018 to win the grand prize. Today, there are over 12 million immigrants in America, sending over $70 billion in remittance back to their home countries. Many issues are faced by both the sender and the receiver. I'll be telling you a story about 2 siblings, Carlos and Jose. Carlos and Jose are 2 siblings from a poor family from El Salvador. Carlos is now working in America as a migrant worker, and he is about to send money back home to his little brother Jose for the very first time. Jose is only 17 years old, and he never had a bank account before in his life, and he does not even have a smartphone. There are many problems faced by Carlos, the sender. Western Union and MoneyGram charge a big fee, and they're very slow. To send $1,000 home, Jose has to pay $40 and wait 6 days. Plus, he has no idea how Jose will spend his money after he receives it. There's a lot of bad influence in the neighborhood that they grew up. Carlos wants to ensure that his little brother doesn't spend the money on alcohol, drugs, gambling, or other vices. Carlos also wants his brother to save up for university. And there are also a lot of problems faced by Jose, the receiver. Jose has no bank account, money, nor credit. He is part of the 2 billion unbanked individuals in this world. Traditional banks would not give him a credit card nor a bank account because he has no credit history and he has no money. And he has no smartphone to check his bank balance, even if he did have a bank card. So our team at this hackathon created a product called VSync to help people like Jose and Carlos. VSync allows Carlos to send money to Jose at a much lower fee by using Visa Direct API. For the first time, Jose can go to his local grocery store and pick up a physical Synchrony Visa card. This card allows Carlos to gain insight on exactly how his money is being spent. And this allows Carlos to dictate how much cash can be taken out of this card every month. And by using Synchrony's User 360 API, Carlos can forbid Jose from spending the money on vices such as gambling and alcohol. VSync will allow Jose to finally build credit for the very first time. The bank will have a history of how he spent his money. So finally, he will stop being part of the 2 billion unbanked individuals in this world. Like Carlos and Jose, VSync can help other poor, marginalized, and unbanked people around the world to gain credit and access to banks for the very first time. With that pitch and a very rough demo, we were able to move the judges and win the final prize and meet Richard Branson backstage. Thank you for watching, everyone. Please follow my Instagram and let me know in the comments what product you would like to build for your next hackathon and which business mogul you would like to meet the most in person.